What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, April 20th. I'm Clark, the host for today. We've got SmackDown to break down. We've got all kinds of stuff to talk about. It's a sweet wrestling weekend, combat sports weekend in general. Everything is going crazy, and I'm excited about it. I've got a sweet crew rolling with me today. Two of my absolute favorites. We've got a return and we've got a 3 days in a row. Haven't seen this in a while. Going to send it out to Philadelphia first for our head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. Good to see you once again. It's like we never leave the show.
I know, it's like a streak. I feel like I'm sleeping here. I'm looking forward to covering SmackDown, and obviously this is probably my last one until Throwback. And it's just wild to me sitting here thinking 2 weeks ago I was getting ready to go to Mania, and now here we are.
Absolutely. We've got Sonny Dalton and Sandy over in the comments with this is awesome. He's excited. I love that. Good to have you, Sonny, always. But we have a huge return. It's been far too long. No longer in Chile. Now stateside once again. My good friend, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ignacio. What's good, dude?
Man, it feels awesome to be back in the States. It feels awesome to be back on the Daily Show with Wrestling Republic, hopefully now on a regular basis until I'm off to who knows where again. But I'm back. Stitch is back. She's somewhere around here. I'm pretty sure she'll be doing a run-in sometime soon. But, man, excited to talk about SmackDown and give my thoughts on WrestleMania. If that's okay with you, Clark.
Absolutely. Let's get right into your thoughts on WrestleMania.
Well, I won't be too long because I know we got other things to talk about and stuff. But just an overall, I don't think it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time, but it's up there. Top 5 for me, at least, maybe, probably. But I think it was a very good WrestleMania with I'm going to say this for a fact, the greatest WrestleMania moment of all time. And I'm not talking about R-Truth pulling down the tag team titles, although everybody enjoyed that. I'm talking about Cody winning the WWE title finally, a Rhodes fulfilling their destiny. And it's just because it's the most realist moment that's ever happened in WrestleMania history and probably WWE history is Cody finally fulfilling the Rhodes destiny and winning the title, after the celebration and so forth and everything that happened, calling Triple H to the ring, calling Bruce Pritchard to the ring, and everything that happened, it's just the realest thing. And other group chats and people that I've talked to and stuff say, well, what about Shawn Michaels and the Boyhood Dream and the matches with The Undertaker? And what about TLC? And what about, on and on, what about Brett and Austin or whatever? And those were all great WrestleMania moments, no doubt, but I think Cody's moment is more significant than a bunch of guys playing capture the flag with a ladder. And Brett and Austin was great. And, Shawn Michaels had a lot of great matches, but, and maybe up until that point when he won the WWF title for the first time against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, that was probably the most realist moment at that time.
Yeah.
But I think nothing tops the moment we saw WrestleMania 40. I mean, I think that's the greatest WrestleMania moment of all time. And I don't think it was overall the greatest WrestleMania of all time. We can go on and on about that, which WrestleMania was the greatest of all time. I think it's top 5 for me, but I just think it was a very good WrestleMania with the greatest WrestleMania moment of all time. That's what I think.
Definitely, Ignacio. And I would agree with you on it's in my top 5 greatest WrestleMania, maybe not, but that moment is top 2. It's up there. I still go with Michaels because I was at 12. That's just me being right. That was my first ever wrestling show was 12.
I was thinking Austin, I was at Mania 38, right? And that's I was there to see Austin's last match. I mean,
in Texas
against Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens fulfilling a boyhood dream.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I mean, it's just man, I wasn't there. I was supposed to be there, but I would have loved to have been there for that moment with Cody Rhodes. I just think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened probably in wrestling.
It was special. It got to a point where, as much as I've joked on the daily myself about Cody Rhodes and the tie clips, and I still don't like the tie
total
clips.
hater.
Still don't like the tie clips, but that doesn't mean I don't like Cody Rhodes, and that doesn't mean I don't love a great story. And halfway through the match, I got wrapped up in it and got as excited as anyone. I'll fully admit that one on this show. There's no doubt about it. But let's get into last night's SmackDown. Let's talk about it. This was an interesting episode of SmackDown, a fun one, because it isn't exactly a go-home show, but a lot of like loose ends sort of got tied up, right? As far as the road to Backlash is concerned. One of those being Cody Rhodes now has a challenger. We saw Styles and Knight last night, and I didn't mean to do that, no pun intended there, but Styles and Knight last night. AJ, phenomenal forearm, cool finish, love it, one of the best. I was actually thinking LA Knight might go over. Not so fast, my friend, in the words of the great Lee Corso, but AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes is a great matchup to put on a poster. What I'm hoping is, because it's early enough, we have some time for AJ to make us believe he has a chance to beat him. And that's what we need to happen. That's what we need to happen ASAP. So I'm glad that this happened early enough that there is time. Anthony, your thoughts on last night's match, and same when it comes to the title picture.
Yeah, going into this match, I felt it was kind of predictable that AJ was going to win. You have a babyface champion. You're going to want him to face a heel, especially as his first challenger. And AJ is one of those guys that could pull this off. AJ, in a lot of ways, is a lot like Shawn Michaels in that he can have a great match with just anybody. Like, he's a once-in-a-generation talent. And, they could play it up a little bit because AJ is probably the only guy that could face Cody and legitimately say he wrestled Dusty, not Dustin. He wrestled Dusty in TNA. So they could play that in, knowing WWE's good relationship with TNA these days. It would be worthwhile to get the footage to at least show it or something, or a clip of it or a photo of it or whatever. But I think AJ's a smart choice. AJ is a good one that could chase Cody. AJ doesn't need the title. It's about keeping Cody's momentum as champion. He's beaten the unbeatable champion in Roman. It's now cementing the legacy of the run. And I think that's the focus. The focus is continuing to push Cody as the face of the company. He's Paul Levesque's choice. And we know AJ's is towards the latter end of his career. So in the grand scheme of things, does he need another reign? No. AJ's a guaranteed future first ballot Hall of Famer. He doesn't need it. And as far as LA Knight goes, he's a baby face. Quite frankly, he was going to lose against Cody anyway. Like, Cody's going to win, but you just got to make it, at least, like you said, somewhat questionable. Like, during the match, you have to feel like, wait, are they going to do it? But I don't believe they are. I think Cody retains, but regardless, I think AJ is a good one that could have the run with Cody on this. Totally.
I think AJ is an excellent choice, and I agree with you that 100%. The move is make us believe, though, that AJ's got a shot here. That's what we got to do, and we have time to do it. Ignacio, what did you think about the match last night? First, and then second, your thoughts, though. You're in agreement with us, right? Me and Anthony on. They got to make sure that at Backlash, it feels like AJ has a chance against Cody.
Well, they already started doing that. They started doing it. They did it last night because you know why? Because last night we actually got a clean finish. Like, there was no shenanigans involved. Nobody interfered. AJ, the forearm, 1, 2, 3, and we got a finish. He beat LA Knight clean, right? But I don't
totally earned it. Earned it.
So it's going to establish him as a legitimate contender.
Yeah,
that he can beat Cody. And then the thing I kind of like about this match also is it caters to like the hardcore wrestling fans.
It does.
They go back to New Japan and they're like, well, Cody was the leader of the Bullet Club, and so was AJ, and they're part of the Bullet Club, group
Yep.
and all that stuff, and it caters to those fans, and they've never wrestled each other before. Is that right? They've never wrestled each other
I
before?
believe that's true, which is mind-numbing for how
There
long
you
both have been in
go.
the
Yeah.
So
business.
it's perfect. And I've seen them kind of branch off to something else that people's like, oh, it's Cody's reign is already boring. I'm like, just take a breath. We're just 2 weeks into it. We're coming up on the draft, and I think they're coming off one of the biggest, WrestleManias of all time. And I think WWE is allowed to take a little bit of a breath for a second, right? Okay, and I think this is very refreshing. We have a fresh feud, a fresh matchup, which wrestling fans nowadays are always craving something new, and this is new and fresh. They've never wrestled each other before. AJ's a legitimate contender given his history and that he's never wrestled Cody before and that he got a clean win last night, and he's a good promo, and we already know he's a great promo. So let's see what's going to happen next week. Next week, we got the draft, I believe, and then we got probably Cody showing up to do a promo. So let's see what we got. I think it's going to be a great build-up to a good solid pay-per-view. Yeah. It's going to be in France, an international pay-per-view. Man, this has like great sub pay-per-view written all over it. Now I'm excited for it.
I am too. And in France is very cool. The crowds are really, really hot in France. As a UFC fan, when they've gone to Paris, it's a unique crowd, and it's cool. I'm excited about this event for sure. The way that Puerto Rico blew me away last year at Backlash, right? Something similar to that, I think, is in the cards and really cool. One of my favorite comments over here on Instagram from good friend of the show, Sonny Dalton and Sandy, said they have a lot of history without having any somehow. And it's so true. It's funny. It is a great way to put it. Yeah. He also said Anthony's on fire. And did y'all hear who's on the show with Anthony and Clark today? And I know that's a shout out to you, Ignacio, there for sure.
Thank you.
Because Sonny's a big fan. That's awesome. And then he asked, here's my question. Would you guys like to see a trilogy with AJ Styles or a one-off? Ooh, that one's difficult for me because I think one-off for now becomes a trilogy down the line, pending where we are maybe a year from now. It would
have to depend on how they build the story and depending how the draft goes and all that stuff.
It depends on the draft. I mean, let's say they stay on the same brand. If you want to do a trilogy, that's a nice safety net to get to a fresh matchup at SummerSlam, assuming this is, the next couple pay-per-views.
Yeah. We also have TJ Hothead over here added that Solo's story is more interesting than Cody right now. I don't know about that necessarily.
We'll get to that, yeah.
But we're about to. That's a great segue to get to that next topic here.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to get into that one. Let's talk about the Bloodline segment with Kevin Owens last night.
Mm-hmm.
Tama Tonga is in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
He's with Solo Sikoa. He's in the Bloodline. He's got his ones up.
Mm-hmm.
We got blood on WWE TV last night.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a kid in a candy store. I was beside myself. I was like, go, Kevin, go.
It's a new era.
We got blood. We did it. We got blood. And I liked it. I liked it too much, maybe, but that's not the point. It made me happy. I thought it was as fun as could be asked for. Solo and his interactions with Paul Heyman are comedic
genius
gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's outstanding. The facial expressions, the delivery, all of it. It's so good. You can't make it up. Here's my question. Do we need now Kevin Owens to have a partner to take on both Solo and Tama? Or is he going to have a singles match with one or the other along the way? That's the one thing that I'm just unsure of. So Ignacio, I'm going to go to you first.
Cool.
What did you think when it came to this encounter as a whole? And what's the direction? Because I love the idea of the beatdown on Kevin Owens, but what's the next step?
I thought it was very good, but I don't know. I'll ask, you ask me a question and I'll respond to your question with a question, but did I miss something? Why Kevin Owens?
That's a good question.
Why Kevin Owens? And maybe I'm the type of guy that's like, okay, let's let things play out. And maybe next week we might find out. But that was my question was why
I can answer
Kevin
that.
Owens?
I can answer that.
Okay. That was my question was why Kevin Owens? And yeah, I thought it was a good segment. I think the interactions with Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman, absolute genius. And I think I commented on one of our chats that say, you know what? I don't know why everybody is excited about Solo Sikoa. I mean, he hasn't really proven anything. He hasn't shown his personality. He hasn't got enough mic time. He hasn't shown his mic skills more than anything else. I mean, his in-ring work stuff is okay depending on who he works with. Right. But absolutely, the past couple of weeks, especially yesterday, he showed that, yeah, he has the potential to be a main event player. I mean, he just seems very comfortable the way he was out there with Paul Heyman in the ring and the way he responded or reacted to the crowd, the boos. He paused and let the crowd react and took a breath and let the crowd react and let everybody at home, the audience, hear that. And then he responded. That has like Paul Heyman coaching like written all over it. So he's obviously getting coached very well. So I'm excited where this is going. And I think I don't think that Solo's the tribal chief or the one who's trying to be tribal chief. I think it's eventually where it's going to be revealed it's The Rock calling the shots. But I think maybe this sets up something with Cody, with Solo maybe challenging for the title at SummerSlam, which is it's great because it's fresh, it's new, and Solo doesn't have to win the title. He's young, right. He's early in his career, but this is something fresh and new and something that we can build up for SummerSlam. And if they book it right and book him right and book him like a monster until then, it could work. But that was my Tama Tonga, he's pretty much supposed to be the muscle now for the bloodline. At least that's the way I see it. And he's playing his part well, and we'll see what he can do further along. But I like the scenario. I like the booking so far, and I think it has a lot of potential to continue the bloodline storyline because whenever you think it's going to run stale, they come up with something new. So right. I'm excited for it. The only question I had was, why Kevin Owens?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, too. Explain the why Kevin Owens thing, because we're going to obviously have some wrestling that comes out of this. Right. Yeah. After you see a guy with blood covering his face, I get obviously Kevin Owens took a big moment from the Usos winning main event night 1 at 39. I think the answer is Kevin Owens for bringing in Tama. That matchup is as good as anything because I also think that's a big part of it. But I loved what you said about Solo. The question was like main event player wise, right? He's the stoic background guy in the bloodline for a long time. The way he's stolen the microphone from maybe the best promo in the business, Paul Heyman, time and time again, and continues to put in good work, be on a par with any good promo. That's a tough thing. Taking the microphone out of Paul Heyman's hand is like taking the bat out of Babe Ruth's hand. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? That's an aggressive aesthetic. And it's really impressive to me that Solo has been able to do that over the last few weeks. And it's working and landing. That blew me away. It's not something I saw coming. Anthony, you said you could answer that question. And I want to get your thoughts on this topic too, because this is like Ignacio said, this bloodline storyline, just when you think they're done, they come back with something real special. Talk to me about it, Anthony.
Okay. This is actually a carryover from last week. If you think about it, when Jimmy Uso, Solo, and Heyman came into the arena, they were going to their locker room. And it was like, no, it's the champ's locker room. It's Cody's. Kevin Owens came in and was going into Cody's locker room. And he went, there's a broom closet down the hall if you need an office. It's a carryover from that. he disrespected them. And that is why they're going after them now. That's why he's going after them, because he disrespected them. Solo is one that I didn't necessarily think that he was the guy or could be the guy. I felt in a lot of ways he was cosplaying Umaga. But he's turned it up the past couple weeks. Him in the suit. Somebody said this online, and I think it's so true. He's now entering his Suge Knight phase, where he's the bad guy running things, because he was the assassin, the savage for Roman. The roles are now reversed.
Yeah. He's
now in this position of self-appointed or figurehead, tribal chief. I agree with Ignacio. At the end of the day, it is The Rock pulling the strings. And I do think that's going to be a callback, because if you remember, there were moments during all of this where Solo did something and Paul said, "Who authorized that?" And they just ended the segment and never said who did it. I think it was The Rock pulling the strings all along. And then when Roman eventually comes back, it'll be OG bloodline against current bloodline. But anyway, the savagery, the Tama Tonga not talking, and he's just the savage. It works. And Paul Heyman, and I've said this before, he is the MVP. He is the greatest manager guy that there's ever been. Him just going, this wasn't authorized. This wasn't authorized. Like, he is in a panic. And we've never seen Paul Heyman in a panic. This is a man who managed Brock Lesnar. He controlled the Beast. Even when the Beast freaked out a few times, it really wasn't this. He looks in a lot of ways like he's a hostage. He's a hostage wise man at this point. And he's never been in this situation because he don't know who's pulling the strings, but he's terrified to get on Solo's bad side. Like, he's never been in this position. When everything is said and done, and I've said this before off air, I don't know if I said it on air. When we're all done with this, when the bloodline stuff's all done, looking back on this is probably going to be the greatest story that's ever been told in wrestling. Long-term story. This is the Breaking Bad of wrestling storylines, because every time there's another twist. And anybody that's complaining online going, "Oh, the bloodline's getting old," you don't understand how great this is. And every time they keep turning it up. Oh, it's getting stale. Here's Sammy as the honorary use. Oh, Roman's gone. Well, now Solo is taking a role. And it's compelling TV. And the complaints with Cody thing, I just crack up, because it's the same people complaining when he was at AEW. Listen, you want to hate him just because he's the guy that the company's getting behind because it's fun to do, like they did with Cena. Fine. Let the stuff play out, though. It delivered. Mania delivered. If you didn't pop for that, you might want to check if you have a pulse. So I do want to see how that plays out. But the bloodline story, him running a savage bloodline, and eventually they'll probably bring in Jacob Fatu or some other Samoans to this group. Like, it's going to get more and more interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. And the blood, I do want to mention that it makes sense when it serves the purpose of the story. You don't do blood just to do blood. If it serves or adds to the story, then it's perfectly acceptable.
Definitely agree. Facts, Anthony from Shad there too. And then Shad added, Tama Tonga is such a good talker in New Japan. So I'm hyped to see his character develop, but so far so great with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you know Tama Tonga, I think it's been great. If you don't, I think it's been pretty good. That would be the way that I would put it, right?
Yeah.
You've got history with Tama Tonga. You've watched his career. It's been real good. If you haven't, I don't know if you fully know him yet. That would be the way that I would put it, but I agree with so much of what you had to say there, Ant. There's no doubt about that one. I will say, though, with that, speaking of good things that are going on in wrestling right now, I'm going to do a little ad read here really quick. Sorry, Next Level. If you haven't checked them out, our partners over at Next Level, they're the best. All in one place, easy to find us, super convenient. Crazy Mania giveaway, current giveaway still active. 2 copies, not 1, 2 copies. You don't get both, but like 2 different winners, right? So better odds, the way that I look at it, of WWE WWE 2K24, the WrestleMania edition being given away. Go check us out. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all of our content across all platforms, linked all in one place. It's the best. Huge wrestling community over there. Awesome stuff. And the app's free, no gimmicks, no nothing. And so are the giveaways. So check that out. You will absolutely not be disappointed. Speaking of things I wasn't disappointed about, let's talk about the new tag titles. I said it on the show. I think it was 5 days ago, maybe more than that, maybe 6. I don't like to do math. I don't want to go too crazy, but they did exactly what I asked. I said, I don't want the circles. I don't want the circles. I want the old shape of the titles. They did exactly what I said. And I've never been more hyped about it. Dude, Anthony, the old title shape is back. They look way better. I don't care about any of it. If it's Waller and A-Town, doesn't matter to me. The old title shapes, the good looking titles are back. How hyped are you? Are you as hyped as me?
Yeah, the best version of the title was from 85 to 02, which is the same shape. The only difference is the old ones had the world was blue and it said world in red. Like it really is the perfect tag titles. It's the most iconic. Everyone loves them. You know, when they switched to the pennies, everyone hated the pennies. Then they changed to nickels. They were horrible. So, you know, both versions of the tag titles, the new ones they've introduced, are obviously significantly better than what was there. But these, the WWE tag team titles, they're classic, they're iconic, they're nostalgic. You know, I always love the titles that show, I don't want gaudy titles. Like, I was never a fan of Cena's title. It worked for Cena. It didn't work as a true representation of the company. It wasn't that. I like classic looks. Big gold, the World Heavyweight title currently, like it's a hybrid of new / old. And these tag titles, it's history. And, you know, I don't think you just change titles just for the sake of changing them. They changed them, obviously, you know, merchandising, stuff like that. I get all that. But at the same point, it's you got rid of something that was not a positive for your company. No one looked at those old titles and went, this is definitive of what a tag title should look like. What you got now is. It's classic. It's iconic. I would love to see them go back to the old Intercontinental title as well. I you know, as a whole, I am very much in favor of the classic titles or something similar to them. But yeah, I'm so glad they got rid of those old tag titles.
I am too. I couldn't stand them most of the entire time. I'm not going to lie. They were my least favorite titles in the WWE. Like the circle, I just don't, it's a bad look. It looks too generic to me. And like the shape of these, this looks like what a title belt should look like. That's the way that
this is definitely the better tag titles.
You know, I think by miles and miles and miles.
And they didn't go lazy like they've done. Well, obviously Vince was doing it years ago, but like, oh, it's a different brand, so we'll use blue instead of red. Like they could have easily given you the same tag titles from Raw and just had it in blue instead of red. But no, they went a completely different looking title. So I thought that was a smart move.
Full new title. I agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Okay. Weird match last night. Not weird, but since Carlito's returned, the longer that we get going, Carlito and Santos last night, fun match, great matchup on paper, right? Carlito Santos makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways because of all those rivalries. we've kind of had this Legado LWO thing drag out a little too long. And Carlito, the more I watch him perform, the more I think is we just missed the 10 best years of his career in the WWE because he wasn't here. And it doesn't feel like what Carlito could have been. It feels like he's a great veteran wrestler and he's awesome in there, but then he's a lamb to slaughter in spots like this. Phantom Driver finish, Santos goes over, which is cool. I like the shout out to the Phantom Driver. It's a great named move. But are we going to just see this Legado LWO thing, Ignacio, play out day after day after day after day? When does this end? Is there an end game?
Gee, I hope so. Because even you know what's funny is that I think it was Wade Barrett made the comment last night. He's just like, well, Carlito hasn't been setting the world on fire, and boy was he right. I don't know if somebody was in his ear telling him to say that, but and I've said it before, and I don't mean to be controversial in this way or anything, because if you've watched the show since I started with Wrestling Republic with Meeks and all that, I mean, I don't like to get into social issues or anything like that, but I mean, it's just like they have to wrap all the Hispanics in one storyline or in one group or whatever, because that's what they've done, because they dragged Dragon Lee into this. Because Dragon Lee was debuted on SmackDown. He was kind of doing his own thing, and they put him with the LWO. And why did you have to do that? Because Dragon Lee is an awesome talent. I love watching him work, and he can speak English. So he doesn't need a mouthpiece. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I got kind of mixed up, confused. Did he get hurt, and that's why they took him out of Mania?
I really couldn't understand that. I don't know if he did or didn't, or if they just made a late switch. I actually don't know the answer.
I think they just went with a bigger name. I don't know for certain though.
Probably okay. I understand that with Andrade and everything, but it's just like, they just really should be trying to push Dragon Lee as a new talent and superstar out of all this. And I think also with Santos Escobar, because I really like him and his work and what he's done in the past and what he did in NXT. And it was an okay match, but I just think that we need to start grooming and start developing these stars in this program.
Yeah.
Like Santos Escobar, like Dragon Lee, and start branching them off to other things. Because just putting him in this has been going on for like almost a year now, I think.
At least, I think.
Yeah, and it's just like, these guys are great talents, and I really like them, especially Santos Escobar and Dragon Lee. And I think we need to start branching them out to do other things, other feuds, start putting them in some title pictures or something like that, something of that nature, and just showing what they could do on a bigger platform with more main event stars. So we can develop more main event stars. So we can and if it's the Hispanic demographic that they're trying to go after, then start putting them in more prominent positions to get the Hispanic demographic to start paying attention more to the product. And you're only going to do that by putting them up against stars like Cody and Roman and Solo, or start incorporating them in more prominent storylines, and just keeping them secluded in this bubble that they've done for almost a year. You're not going to do that. Just putting them on TV just isn't enough. And Selena Vega is another one. I wish they would do more with Selena Vega, because Selena Vega, if you remember, during the pandemic, how many times did you see her on Raw or SmackDown? She was like on commentary, and she would come out with her group, and she would be a manager, and she would wrestle, and she would get involved in the matches. I wish they would do more with her. And I think that's what they need to start focusing on doing, instead of just having a match for match sake.
I totally agree with you, dude. And I'm super glad that I tossed that one to you, because I think you hit the nail on the head 100%. It's so much talent in this storyline, and it's not about the talent. I have no issue with anybody involved. right? Like they're all outstanding performers, whether it's Zelina, whether it's Santos, whether it's Dragon Lee, whether it's, I mean, heck, Andrade, Rey Mysterio's a legend. We all know, Hall of Famer. And to your point, it's time to put the story to bed here and let everybody branch out, build upon it, right? It's the closest thing to me, and this is the frustrating part, that feels almost like 50-50 booking in some ways. The way we used to get it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? It's the one story in WWE where I'm like, you have so much talent and you've already done some really good things, but it's time to move along, right?
And even the guys, real quick, I forget their names. Joaquin and what's the other the tag team?
Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro.
Man, watch what they do on NXT, and they're able to flourish on NXT, but they come to SmackDown and they're the jobber tag team. It's just like, and that's one of the things real quick that we mentioned the tag team titles, beautiful titles.
Yes.
A great opportunity to revamp the tag team division, because I don't think they put enough emphasis on tag team wrestling, and I hope that this presentation of these new titles is more emphasis, that they're going to put more emphasis on the division.
Same.
But I mean, let these guys go out there and show everybody what they can do. You know what I mean? On SmackDown, on the broader audience, I guess you can say.
I completely agree. Shot in the comments here has a really, really good one. He goes, Zelina Vega versus Tiffany Stratton, please. Yes. That's a fun matchup rivalry you could have. Talk about two with mic skills.
You know what I think is funny real quick is that this is out there, but like people have noticed. I know people have noticed that Zelina Vega, like she'll just like when they have matches or the women, some of them will wear like salacious stuff sometimes, whatever, and that's part of the product or whatever.
It's part of wrestling.
Yeah, it's part of women's wrestling, But like Zelina Vega, sometimes, more times than most, she'll just come out wearing straight up lingerie, and nobody will say anything or do anything. But it's just because it's part of her character or whatever, and it's just like
she's got good ring gear. I would say that.
Yeah, she's got ring gear. She can talk. She's do the
cool
stuff. And it's just like, man, she should be in a better spot than what she is now.
I totally agree. I think she's as underutilized as any woman in the WWE women's division because she's so multi-talented, as you presented earlier too, right? Commentary, managing, wrestling, on the microphone, all of it. She has quite a bit going for her. And the fact that she's not pushed to the moon is out of this world. Shaw did add, though, she cosplays with a lot of characters in video games, and that's true too, which is cool because that appeals to a large portion of the audience. Absolutely. Okay, let's though get into our main event of the evening. Bayley defending the title against Naomi, former TNA Women's Champion Naomi. That is. I'm gonna go to you, right back to you first, Ignacio. I'm sorry about this, but dude, we've got Bayley and Naomi DQ finish, and Tiffany Stratton, who we just recently mentioned, with the run-in. We're looking at Stratton and Bayley, I think, down the stretch here. Do you think it's time for Tiffany? I know Shad over on Tuesday night is ready to see Tiffany Stratton in the main event. Do you think she's ready for it?
Man, I'm ready too, but this is the thing that Vince used to do is he would kind of push people a little bit too early. And there's no problem with incorporating her in the main event spot. It's just like, they can give her a title shot and all that good stuff. She doesn't have to win. They just could do it for storyline purposes and kind of establish her as a potential main event star or a main event star and as a potential title holder or a face of the company and all that stuff. So I don't have a problem with them pushing new stars, but don't put the belt on her right away. Because that's what they did with Rhea Ripley in the beginning and countless stars and trying to force them into that main event spot. They did it with Keith Lee and other people from NXT. And they don't have to push her in that spot right away. they can incorporate her in the main event scene, but they don't have to give her the title and have her have the face of the company because it might flop. But just giving her the attention and the airtime and the TV time and giving her a chance to be in and around the main event spot, I think is important. The same thing with Jade Cargill and these people that they're going to start moving up from NXT, I think is good. But is she ready? I don't think she's quite ready yet, but she does have the potential to be an absolute star. I mean, she has the look, she has the in-ring capability, she has the promo skills, but I don't think she's quite there yet. But I think, a good feud with Bayley where she can learn more in-ring generalship and so forth, more promo skills is how to interact with the main event star and so forth. It would be good for her. So I think she's got a lot of potential, and I think she'd be probably, man, I would say potential either her or maybe Jade Cargill as a potential winner for next year's Royal Rumble.
Ooh, I like that for the Rumble a lot. I like both of those ideas. And Shad added that he said, I say run a triple threat at Backlash and have Bayley retain pinning Naomi, go back in this feud in the summer and have her beat Bayley when she wins the Money in the Bank. So that's interesting. Maybe Money in the Bank for Tiffany Stratton. There's a lot of choices here. And Anthony, I got to get your thoughts on it. Title picture. I'm stoked Bayley's the champion. I think the right woman won. I think it made perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Stratton, Naomi as first challengers. Do you like the idea of a triple threat? And what were your thoughts on the finish last night and everything? Tiffany running out.
I think Shad's on the money there. I think that's really how it should play out. I think you can do that. Tiffany is definitely the type that could tease cash-ins, and I think make it work. Bayley and Naomi going into it, it had that situation where it's like, well, I don't think Bayley's going to lose this her first time out, especially on a SmackDown, not even a pay-per-view, as much as Naomi is one of the top talents. So you knew that. So, again, you're protecting Naomi because she doesn't get pinned, but she probably would get pinned in a triple threat because she could afford to take the loss. She's a former women's champion, not only in TNA, but in WWE as well. And Tiffany's that young talent. The problem that they have is, like Ignacio said about going straight for the titles, the women's division, they're very limited because all there is the women's title and the tag titles that have never really lived up to anything. I think they had the best of intentions to do the tag titles, but they've never really had the team, the structure, or the commitment to
develop the division
to make it work. So personally, I'd scrap them and do like they're doing on NXT. Do a secondary women's title, whether you do an Intercontinental and a US on each brand, if you're willing to commit to it. Don't do it just for equality. You need to do it and do it right. That's the thing. Don't just do it just to say you did it. That was the problem with the tag titles. They did it just for the sake of saying, hey, we got tag titles. And that was the problem. But as long as you're able to commit to it, then do it. Then you could do a secondary title. We know it can work if you commit to it. Probably the most prominent one you have on the roster is the one that established the one in the other company and has not been the same since, in Jade. I'm not saying you give it to Jade, but it can work if you do it right. So I do think that's the direction it's probably going to go, probably the triple threat. I think it's a little too early to predict who's going to win either Rumble next year. But Money in the Bank, though, yeah, I think Tiff is it could be easy dark horse, but you also got to remember there's the Battle Royal on Monday to determine who the new champion is on Raw. So Tiffany's in that too. So, I mean, I believe she's in that. She can win that. Yeah. But I do think it's probably going to be the Bayley Naomi thing. But like in theory, she could. But it's a lot of interesting things that can happen in the women's wrestling in WWE right now with Bayley as women's champion. And the question mark now that Rhea got forced out, who's going to be in that spot? Right. Because Rhea was the dominant champion and nobody knew who was going to beat her. She was the Roman Reigns of the women's division, the Chyna as the women's champion. Who's going to fill the void? Is it going to be Liv? and then Rhea will eventually come back for her. Anything's up for grabs at this point.
It is so true, Anthony. Like it's Rhea's injury deeply affects both divisions in a way that you don't actually see often, right? Like both the SmackDown and the Raw Women's Championship are affected by the fact that Ripley went down.
Yeah, there's a void.
It's a brutal timing for that, which is terrible for Ripley because she's been on the run of her career, like and wish her the best. Absolutely, like that's no fun. But I do think Bayley deserves a little bit of a longer reign than maybe. Like if Tiffany is the first singles challenger, that doesn't make any sense to me. For Bayley, the interference, it does make sense, but I actually do like Shad's triple threat idea in some sense, just to put Tiffany in that spot, give her the taste of the main event scene, and then reconvene back later down the road. I think the Tuesday Night Delight actually had a good idea there when it came to that.
I do think whoever Bayley loses to, she's putting a young talent over. I believe that's whoever she ends up losing it to, it's going to be a young talent.
Almost assuredly, but that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody. Seriously, that tuned in without question. We appreciate it. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. On behalf of me, Clark Taylor, Anthony Ricciardi, Ignacio, thank you so much always for tuning in. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. We've got Dynasty. We've got all kinds of good stuff coming up wrestling wise.
Rebellion.
Stay locked into Wrestling Republic. It's going to be a blast. And thank you as always. Have an excellent Saturday.